I think we're having connectivity issues here. Guys, let me know what's going on your end because the app on my end is having some issues.
Like, yes.
Yep, I see us too. I hear everybody.
All right. Let's try to boot this thing up. Sorry that um I don't know what happened there. The software glitched or something. I know during the music I started to hear like almost like CD skipping, right? It wasn't I don't know. That was weird. But welcome to the show. Another episode of Fandom Nation here as we keep this program going on. Um, Tonight we're going to talk about like the need, not just the want, the desire, but in my opinion, the essential need for the Halloween series to be a fresh start and a change in direction from what we've gotten before. I have some thoughts on Crystal Lake. Like, can it work without a certain someone? This will be the only time I mention this on the show. We'll get this one out of the way now. There are, since I can't put them up on screen at the moment, there are photos from I Know What You Did Last Summer that have been put out online, official photos from the movie that show Jennifer Love Hewitt and Freddie Prinze Jr. Reuniting. So that was a cool touch. Johnny and I are awfully familiar with Freddie's more recent work, Star Wars Rebels, something that we talked about for years over on Wastelands. Um, cool to see him back in that role. So feel free to go check that out online. Um, we are also going to discuss retro video game cases. It's been an obsession of mine lately, and I want to get into that. Johnny's trying to keep a straight face, but it's not working out well for him. He's just excited for Andor. He's jumping at the bit for it. Um, and then we have some wrestling chatter. Actually, Matt has been going off in our group chat, and Matt, gotta love him, can be outspoken just like me, and but sometimes he says smart things, and we shall talk about them. Um, and then the Star Wars news. Why don't we just get that out of the way now? Is just because when we get to Star Wars, we can go right into Andor. Um, the real time strategy game is going to have a heavy Mandalorian influence. I know I haven't done the intros yet, but Johnny, just thoughts on them going. When I say Mandalorian, I don't mean the TV show. I mean the Mandalorians. Thoughts on that?
It's interesting. It's all going to come down to what it looks like in the end. What story is in it, how it plays, all those things in video game. It's I like it because it's different. I think that's important. It sort of reminds me of Republic Commando, in that it was different from anything else we had at the time, and that made it unique and that made it fun. And if they can sort of capture that, I'm for that. But the fear is another game not about Jedi so soon after Outlaws. I don't know if that's the smartest decision after a lot of the negativity that Outlaws got. For that, and I know part of a fair chunk of that was based on its own play style and how the game operated itself. So if you can sort of fix those issues, I like the idea. Um, it's going to be interesting. I like I said, Mandalorians, they're a group of people that don't get sort of the respect they deserve in the Star Wars universe, being who they are and what they are, and the history behind them. In that they literally stood up to the Jedi and survived. as a non, force using group is something to be, lauded and talked about, and it really isn't. So I am I'm personally I'm excited at the idea. I don't need a lightsaber and everything Star Wars to be fun and enjoy it, as long as it's that fun and enjoyable. Outlaws was fun for a little, and then it got really repetitive really fast. And they fixed that. It changes after that, but by that point, shine was off the apple, and it already moved on to other things. So I still haven't finished that, and I don't want that to happen again if they can't figure out exactly what they're doing and how they're going to work it and make it work so that the story is interesting, the story is fun, and doesn't suffer from that to the average fan.
Fair points, valid points too. Randy, so a quick thought here on the RTS game being, at least having a heavy Mandalorian influence.
I mean, I think it's fine. I think it's actually cool just because, given what we've seen in the canon, what Star Wars has presented to us in media, there's plenty of Mandalorians out there. So the idea of bringing them into something like this when that type of presence hasn't really been in a game like that, whether it be Battlegrounds or some of the other ones out there, it's just it's great to see. Obviously, I agree with Johnny. It's kind of like, let's wait and see how they control if there's a good story with them, because the one thing that I always like about RTS games is each faction has their own story, and as long as it's good, I'm all for it. Hopefully that they're taking their time more so than what we got with Outlaws. What's one thing we said about Outlaws? Take your time, don't rush it. What did they do? They rushed it. That's on them. It's their own fault. They just wanted to make the money, and I get it. But still, if you're not going to deliver a solid game because you're like, oh, we can patch it later, then you do not deserve to be a game developer. So many indie devs nowadays are taking their time, putting stuff out in early access, working out the bugs before 2 or 3 years before a full release, and these games are great and they make plenty of money. You don't need to sit there and be like, I'm a AAA studio, I'm going to push this game out 7-8 months ahead of schedule. And then that's what happened with Outlaws. And so far, this RTS game seems to be taking its time. They're not really rushing, and that's what I like about it.
Well, let's hope in the end that's what pays off. We all just want to see a good product and a useful and entertaining Star Wars game. Let's do things in backwards order because that's how the show is going. Intros for this evening. You already heard him. Let's hear him again. The man behind Bros Before Pros, Johnny V. What's going on, buddy?
Not a whole heck of a lot. I, like many other people in the world of gaming, are just magically enthralled with Schedule One. I have been playing way too much of that game. By myself and with friends. It's fun. I'm enjoying it. It's a great, stupid way to spend time.
I've seen gameplay of it. I'm just kind of going, wow, okay, this is where we're at now. But as long as it's good, that's all that really matters.
It's the prime example of everything you were saying about indie studios spending, very little time pushing out these products, low budget, and making it good. That's what this is. It knows what it is, and it plays to it in every way possible, and I love it.
Also joining us, the man from Parts Unknown, Randy. What's going on, man?
Not a whole lot. Just kind of enjoying my week off. It was time to recharge the batteries, so which gave me the unique opportunity to actually watch the episode of Andor prior to what we're doing tonight, like day of, like hours in advance, just so I could kind of have it all fresh in my mind and ready to go. So I'm really excited about later.
Also joining us, he's a Mets fan. That's okay though. We still love him. It's Maddie. What's going on, buddy?
Hey, I'm sending you a broom because we swept that ass.
That you did.
Mm-hmm.
Although I'm not exactly the president of the Blue Jays fan club. Very, very
What do you think
critical
about
over
that
how
contract? What do you think about that Vladdy contract?
Damned if they do, damned if they don't. Right? Like you
Yeah.
can't let them walk. Trading him as a rental, you might have got a couple of, one team's top 10 prospects with the way trades go
Oh,
now.
you'd probably gotten a couple for
And
yeah.
like he's shown he can do it. He just hasn't shown he can do it consistently. Vladdy doesn't need to hit 35, 40 home runs for me. Vladdy can go out there and hit 20 or 25 home runs. It's that average that needs to come back up where it used to be. Vladdy, when he came up, it was known as an average hitter, but he could still hit home runs.
Mm-hmm.
And then the focus became home runs and the average started slipping. And last year I felt like he kind of got back towards that a little bit, but I don't know. This guy hasn't shown me any consistency, feels desperate. And, unpopular opinion. I'm not just saying this because it's my daughter's name. I would have signed Bichette.
I mean, you can get him around 285. That's good. That's pretty solid for him.
All right, let's dive into this, guys. So I want to give him a shout out. Dave McRae has a new video out. It's only like 4 minutes long. Strongly suggest everybody go check it out. What I liked about it is it felt like when I first started watching Dave many years ago, before I even knew him. And, obviously Dave now was known for the live show. But back then, you would get just sort of videos here and there. And they were fun. And this one was fun. It was very well done. That's why Dave is leaps and bounds above most creators in this space still. But he brought some interesting points up. How you need to let a franchise sit sometimes, let it breathe, and that the whole letting it breathe. Let's be honest. Like at best, you're getting a Halloween project next year, late next year, and in my opinion, that even seems unlikely at this point. So let's say 2027. You're 5 years removed from the last release. I think that's an okay amount of time. Half a decade, I think that's enough time to let something breathe in today's day and age. I don't think you need to be gone 10 years or 15 years. But Dave was making the point about, be gone a decade before you come back. And I don't think it's wise to be gone that long in today's industry. But I think by the time this thing comes out, if it's been almost 5 years or a little more than 5 years, I think whatever it is, if it's done well, will be effective. But I think to be effective, I've thought about this more and more. And it's like, Matt, even Johnny, you've been on enough of these streams with me over the years, heading into Halloween Kills, heading into Halloween Ends, all of our coverage on both of those movies. How many times did we hear this in the chat, whether it was from people that our staff, were staff, or even just members in the chat, where they'd be like, well, I really want to see Michael stalk in this movie. I want to see more of the shape stalking people. I want to see him lurking more, stalking in the shadows. That's what I want to see. And like that would be all they say. They'd give you no context. They tell you no real direction they want the story to go. What they want the movie to say for itself. Just I want the shape to stalk. And it's so prominent because so many people feel that way. And for me, I have a feeling this is going to be an episode where my takes might surprise a few people compared to what I normally would say. But no, like we don't need that. As much as I love, the old classic blue lighting and Michael lurking in the shadows, stalking and chasing his prey and getting them to walk in to traps and being that classic 78 Michael or even 81 Michael, if that is all you desire out of a new Halloween movie, out of a new Halloween series, then I I don't know why you want it. You already have it. Those things have happened. They exist. There's also great fan films that do those things. If we're going to get something new, have a new take on it, a new twist on it, a new fresh look on it so that it's desirable to people that aren't just Halloween fans. For me, I think I'm firmly in the seat now. You could offer me the biggest nostalgia pill possible for Halloween and go back and do something with Halloween 4. But unless you're going to have a new take or a new twist on how you do things and how you're approaching the story and how you're going to handle certain characters and just the way it's shot, I don't think I'm interested. I want a new take. I don't want the same old shit. If you want the same old shit, brush off your DVD, put it in your machine, and watch it. Why do like Halloween is not Marvel, it's not Star Wars, it's not DC, it's none of those. Okay, so why are studios going to spend among millions of dollars to give you the same old shit when they could do something to not necessarily reinvent the wheel, but have a bit of a fresh take on it? Like Halloween 2018, Johnny actually summed it up perfectly a couple weeks ago on here, was a fresh take, an unexpected fresh take from a comedian, a pair of comedians, might I add. And they did it in a way that people weren't expecting at the time. Think about what your thoughts were on what 2018 would be before you saw it. And it impressed people. It shocked people. It made north of $250 million worldwide. And why did it do that? There's nostalgia in that movie for sure, all over the place. But it was a fresh, new take. And it worked. That's what you need to do again without Jamie Lee Curtis, preferably. Johnny, give us your take on that.
Well, I mean, you're right. It's so many words. It's we had
Sorry,
the nostalgia.
say that again. I like the sound of it.
No, um, we had the nostalgia. We had all that. This last trilogy was so much of it built around the nostalgia that we don't need that. Nostalgia can't be the only thing bringing people in the door, because eventually we're just going to stop, because the more and more people who appreciate that nostalgia are getting older. Like, you need to hook the next generation of Halloween fans, and you're not going to do that by spending all your time shilling out the member berries for those of us in our 30s and 40s who were young when we first watched Halloween movies and appreciate that nostalgia. You're not hooking them like that. You need to hook the next generation of horror fans, which really, outside of Scream, no franchise has really done that in any sort of meaningful way. Scream has done that. Scream has done a great job of pitching the nostalgia for us old guys and hooking the younger generation with the castings of like the Jenna Ortegas of the world, the the people like that who are that the younger generation want to see do these things, and have made them the focus while still building your foundation out with the original cast that we know and love from our youth, and integrate bringing in new viewers and new fans and new audiences, and they keep surviving in it while still dishing out the nostalgia. Halloween didn't do that. It relied entirely on the nostalgia. Outside of Jamie Lee Curtis, they did not do a very good job building up anybody else. They had their chance, but they didn't do it in a meaningful way, and we're left holding our hands up in the air going, so what was the point of this? And it's necessary to, like Sean said, you don't need to reinvent the wheel. You just need to go back to the basics. Keep it simple. Michael is a very, of all of the sort of horror icons out there, it is so much easier to go back to the basics with Michael than any of the others. Like if you look at the examples where they've tried to reinvent the wheel in horror, the big example of that would be the Nightmare on Elm Street remake. They couldn't capture that lightning in the bottle because it just didn't work. There's nothing wrong with Haley's performance in and of itself. It just wasn't Robert Englund. And you tried to do all the same things with a new Freddy, and it just didn't work. We weren't buying what they were selling. With Michael, you have the advantage. He doesn't speak, so it doesn't matter of the voice. No one has, a voice of Michael. You don't need to try and capture that. All you need is a physically imposing person who can walk at a pace that's good enough to scare the bejesus out of you and be in places you don't expect him to be. Like Sean was saying, it's we all were like, no, we just want Michael to go back to what made Michael great. We want to see the stalking, the psychological horror side of Michael that is what was so great in the original movie. It wasn't about how creepy and gory and intense the kills were. It was about how freaked out you were with, almost the creation of the jump scare in a sort of way. Nobody really done that sort of thing before that in that way. And Carpenter made it work. You every time a character opened a door, you had that tickle in the back of your mind. Is Michael on the other side of that door? Because he could be. He could just as easily come around that corner at any time, and that was the magic. He could come from anywhere at any time, but you'd always, for the eagle-eyed viewers, you'd always see him. You'd see the stalk, you'd see the chase, you'd see the hunt, and that's what made it magic. And they it's not difficult to do that. You just need a character playing off that, like we said, is not Jamie Lee Curtis. It can't be. You need the next generation Scream Queen. You need the next generation of Last Girl. You need that to push your momentum forward. And if you just keep going back to the same old well, eventually that well is going to dry up. And Halloween is at the point where, that well is pretty damn dry. You might be able to find a little bit of water at the bottom of that well, but it ain't flowing over. We're not going to survive on this well for much longer if you don't find a new well to dig out. If you don't find a way to increase the life of this well, dig out a new hole and find a new source of water.
All right, Minecraft guy, enough.
These are farming metaphors, not Minecraft metaphors.
Well, it might as well be the same fucking thing. I agree with what you're saying, though. I'm a huge Halloween fan, but hey, you can only, as you were saying, get so much water, right? Like eventually it dries up. And while I don't think we're there, rushing something or hoping they do the same thing over again is not how you breathe new life into the franchise. Not in my opinion, anyway. And I have similar thoughts on Crystal Lake, right? Like, I know there's people that want Crystal Lake to debut and it to be like, oh, it feels like Friday the 13th part 2 or part 4 or whatever. And like, they want that feeling to it. And it's like, for me, it's like, no. Why would you want that? We already had it. It didn't work. That well dried up so quickly because of how fast they were popping out movies, excuse me. Give me a new take, a fresh take. I think it was Johnny that got me to try Hannibal years ago. And I didn't really want to, right? Like I liked the actors that were in it, but it was like, do I need to see this? We've already been told this story. A lot of people have already read the story. And I watched it. I was blown away, completely blown away, just because it was a different take, a fresh take, and dare I say, a better take. And you just never know, right? Like people will go, "You'll never get anything better than '78," and a lot of those same people will go, "You'll never get anything better than Halloween '78 or Halloween 2 from '81." But you don't know that unless you try something new. While I'm not a Rob Zombie fan by any means, at least what he did was different for Halloween, not for himself, but for for Halloween. Um, so yeah, that's sort of how I feel about it. Matt, dying to get your take on this, man. Halloween. I know you love the nostalgia. I know at one point in time you were, pro, have Michael stalk and all this stuff. And I'm not saying he can't stalk, but like, doesn't there need to be more?
There is a need to be more, need to be more, but there's also a need to have him to stalk too. Um, and I'm just sitting here and I'm thinking, if they had never killed Jamie Lloyd, and I mean, the ideas, the directions they could have gone are endless. I mean, there's a take. It wasn't Jamie Lloyd they killed. They thought it was Jamie. I mean, there's so much they could have done with it, but it wouldn't feel fresh, in my opinion. But that Johnny said it best. That well's drying. There might be a little down at the bottom, but you're gonna have to hit on it, like they hit on 2018. And I mean, in what was it? Was it 2009 when Rob Zombie's second one came out, and then so that was 9 years, 8 or 9 years before in between movies.
It was, and a lot of people love to say that, but it is important to remember, especially like this if you've read Taking Shape 2. Shout out to our friend Dustin. Um, they tried to make so many movies
Oh, I know.
during that stretch. I think the one everyone remembers the most is Halloween Returns.
Mm-hmm.
It's a movie that a lot of people, even to this day, wanted more than a finished product of Halloween 2018. They'll take the unfinished product of Returns over 18, which is wild because I actually think 18 is a great movie.
Mm-hmm.
But Returns had all sorts of potential.
Oh
You
God,
know,
yes.
um, but like, there's so many. Like, I believe it's north of half a dozen movies in those 9 years, and not just like movies that were pitched, but three or four of them legitimately they're trying with all their effort to get it out,
Mm-hmm.
and it just didn't happen. So it's like they did disappear for 9 years, but it wasn't voluntary.
I just don't know how to take it. I mean, there's a part of me that says let's go to Smith Grove, 63 to 78. There's a and make it more psychological. There's a part of me that says fine. I mean, let's do a sequel to 4. I mean, they jumped all around at this point. You could use Daniel Harris to bring in 4 and do a sequel. I mean, you and I, we always kept on hearing the rumblings, but it's never happened between her and Josh Hartnett and doing some movie that could still be done. The idea I always had that Randy knows about that one, the one where the kid from Resurrection, who is the geek, I don't know, I want to call him a geek, the one who was sitting behind the computer kind of narrating everything to everybody was actually Steven, whose just name was changed, so he never knew his paternity. That was something I thought might have been cool you could do, but they got to get it right. And at this point, I don't think we're going to get anything before the 50th. I really don't. And I'm fine with that.
I don't know if
But
we'll get
that
anything
50th better
before the
hit.
50th at this point, but I think we have something by the 50th. Like, you can't let the 50th go by and not do something.
No. I get that. But I don't know what I mean. I don't want to have a movie come out in 07, 2027, and then they have the movie for the 50th and 28. I don't want it. I don't because I don't want it to feel rushed. And I'm scared that unless they start shooting a movie, doing something by the end of this year, start shooting by the end of this year, then I don't want it.
I mean, from the few conversations I've had from people that would know far more than we would, much like I just said, with the 9-year gap between Resurrection, sorry, not Resurrection, Zombie second movie and 2018, how that wasn't voluntary. They just couldn't get a movie out. They tried and failed. As far as I know, the reason for the slowness of what's going on here with the series has nothing to do with them intentionally taking their time, and things just aren't lining up. So could they? Sure. Could line up with a single phone call. Um, I'm sure some of it is them taking their time, but you listen to a guy like 3C Films who, Chris doesn't report on bullshit. If he's taking his time to make a video, it's because it's fairly legit. And when they came out with that thing about the prison penitentiary, and that could be the direction of it leading into a movie, at that point in time, we all thought that Halloween was miles ahead of the Crystal Lake series because of everything that was going on, this house with the Crystal Lake series. And then fast forward to today, and it's not debatable. Like, the Crystal Lake series all of a sudden has way more legs and is way closer to being watched by all of us than a Halloween series. So, I want a Halloween series. I do. I don't want the same old shit. Right? Like, give us a new POV. Johnny was talking about POVs. Well, as a guy who's a passionate fan of Seven, give me the detective POV. Give me the cop as one of the lead characters, trying to hunt down Michael. You know, you get a, sort of multiple POVs, because then you have your characters that Michael's going to be slaying on Halloween night, and the cop who's chasing him. And I don't mean like Dr. Loomis either. I mean someone who has been on a long term case and has a manhunt going on, and they're out for Michael. I think that'd be very interesting. I think it'd be a much different take. Get into the detective's head. I'm not saying it needs to be Halloween meets Seven, although, they could do much worse things. Um, but I do think the take needs to be fresh. But I do think at this point in time, it's no contest. Crystal Lake is miles ahead of where Halloween is at this point in time. Any other thoughts on that, fellas?
Not really. I mean, there's a lot of great points that everyone said. It's at this point, I don't know what the 50th is going to be, if it's even going to be a thing. You could just as easily re-release the film, the 78 version in theaters, and call that this is your celebration. And I don't necessarily know that that's a bad thing. Like we strive for these celebrations to be something new. We want something new. It's the 50th anniversary. They've got to do something new. Do they?
I think the problem with that idea is they re-release the Halloween movie every year at Halloween.
I'm sure there's something out there that could make this special. Whether that's filming some new stuff with Carpenter, or something like that. Some sort of on a unused documentary footage or something from the production, or something to separate it from just the generic yearly re-release that happens. Because that's more like to me that's sort of like Rocky Horror. It's not the
It,
same.
it does feel a little desperate, almost like it's your last chance. You can't get a movie together. You haven't been able to get the series together. So let's do something with 78. The problem is, like I said, they re-release it every year. I like your idea of trying to make it a little more special. The one thing I'd like to think they could do is, have Trankus and Miramax sit down, pay Carpenter some money, and find him everything he shot on that 78 film and go, make us an extended cut. And you get the new John Carpenter cut
Mhm.
of his Halloween movie. It might even be missing some stuff from what's in the original movie. You just don't know till
Mhm.
you see it. And I do think that would put asses in seats for sure, at least from the
Oh, for sure.
Halloween fan base.
For sure.
Randy, any thoughts?
So, sitting here listening to everybody in regards to this, when you think about slashers in the 70s, whether it's Texas Chainsaw or Black Christmas or Halloween, that they set the standard, they set the bar at the time. And you're talking about giving us something new, and maybe it's time for Halloween to set the bar again by giving us something completely different that in essence is Halloween and is in essence Michael Myers, but to a degree that no one's ever seen before. And it's going to take time. And if they go that route, you can't really rely on it to be out, say, for the 50th. I think something that they should do for a celebration for the 50th is almost kind of have their own, once in a lifetime type a con that gets a lot of the people that are still around and current people that have been in the movies together under one roof for the fans to just kind of celebrate Halloween as a whole, especially considering we don't know how many more years we're going to have
Well,
John Carpenter
Randy,
around.
they do that every 5 years, my friend.
Well, how am I supposed to know these things? It's not like I've heard of it
So
before.
that should already be a given. That should be happening on that year, no matter what. They do have the video game coming, and I'm very confident that game will come out. I don't think it's going to be, a game that costs a fortune to make. How effective it is, we've been talking about it over the weeks. We'll have to wait and see. But the question is, to everybody watching live or after the fact, do you think Halloween needs a facelift, a fresh start, a new direction moving forward, or do you just want your member berries, your nostalgia? Is that all you need? But is that what's best for the franchise? Let us know in the comment section below how you feel about that. Next question, simple fellas. Crystal Lake and I'm just specifically talking the first season, because God knows today in TV, your second season might not come for 2 years. Can Crystal Lake work season one? Can it capture enough people without Jason?
I mean, I'm pretty sure it will. It really depends on the story, I obviously we're not going to get Jason in the way everybody wants to see Jason. I think that's the end game with the TV series, but ultimately, I think what we're getting a lot of backstory. We're getting a lot of everything that we never really got in the movies. I mean, unless you read the comics or read the novels, even play the video games, because with the Friday the 13th game, they had these snippets from Pamela Voorhees in there that if you found the tape, you could listen to her thoughts and things like that. This is an opportunity to flesh out a character that we've known about since day one with Pamela, and eventually lead into the descent into madness, which is something that is fascinating, because you don't get, the only thing you get is they weren't watching him, he drowned, they were off having sex, I had to kill them all. Like, that's all you, that's the only motivation you get. This is an opportunity to add to that, and that's very intriguing to me as a big Friday fan. And that's what, honestly, that's what's going to get me to watch to begin with. Even though I know we're not getting Jason as we know it right off the bat, I know that down the road, that's a huge something that I think they're going to lead to.
You have, I'm guessing what, Jason died in 57, right? I want to say 57, and if we're doing present day, the first one came out in 80. You got 20 years worth of material that you could mess with of Pamela's descent, her marriage to Elias, or was she married to Elias? Do we know that? But I, it's. I think Randy's right. It's all on how it's going to be presented. Do we need Jason in the first season? No. Will we get Jason in the first season? If we do, it shouldn't be right to the end as a cliffhanger going into season 2. That's how you do it. If they're going to do it, if they're going to include Jason, don't wait to the end, and don't make it this slow. Make it your Derek Mears, because that's what the people loved. We finally got a Jason who felt like Jason. What Jason was in our eyes. What he should have been. But
I
so,
think
like I said, go ahead.
I just think undoubtedly we're going to get a new Jason look eventually from this series if it does well enough.
Well, I mean,
It'll
if we
be
don't get
interesting
Derek
to see what
Mears,
that new look is.
if we don't get the Derek Mears version, we can get something in between. I just don't want the slow trotting Jason from the rest of the earlier other movies. Give me something in between if you're not going to give me Derek Mears version.
You just get Roy.
Yeah, you get Roy or Roy on the shit. I think you were getting Roy's kid the first 4 movies.
Johnny, give us a quick thought on this. Can this show still work to the general public without Jason being involved in season 1? And I'm not saying that's what's going to happen. I'm simply asking.
I mean, sure. It's all, again, we keep sort of harping back to that, but it's all going to come down to the story. A good story can cure a lot of ills in a genre like this. So that's what it's really going to come down to.
It's almost like you're saying story's important.
Who would have thunk
As
it?
if it, right? Like almost like the story for the final movie in a series that spanned over 40 years probably shouldn't had the premise of somehow Palpatine returned. Just throwing that out there.
No, I mean, I don't, in this story, I don't think Jason is so much necessary. Right off the rip, you sort of take that mandatory Jason off the table just by the fact this isn't called Friday the 13th. Like that alone is enough difference that you can just look at people and be like, hey, this isn't Friday the 13th. I don't know why you're expecting Jason. He's not going to be here. Not in the way people expect him to be there. Like, I would like to see Jason in a different way. I would almost like to see sort of a role reversal go on here where, instead of, we keep seeing sort of Jason, hearing his mother and communicating with his dead mother, and almost like that sort of thing, like with the sweater and the shrunken head and in the cabin and all that stuff. I would like to see the opposite of that. I want to see Pamela communicating with her dead son, and seeing him and hearing his voice, talking to him and raising him and being a mother to him while he's not even there. Like, I want that oppositeness of this, to see her, to see the madness, behind her. I want that. I want to see that descent. I don't want to just be there. I don't want the first episode to be her going nuts and killing a bunch of people. Like, that's not what I want here. I want the descent. I want the slow. I want the, I want the create. I don't want her to get blood on her hands until the end of the first season. Personally, me. Like I want this to be a slow build, building to that moment where she finally goes off the deep end and starts, becoming the Pamela Voorhees we know from the first movie, who granted is a character we know still, like you guys have all said, nothing about. The comics have tried to paint a picture. They've tried to explain a little bit of why she is the way she is, and her backstory. And Randy, you mentioned the audio snippets in the Friday the 13th game, which is something that people just don't talk about, to the point I'd even forgotten about them until you mentioned it. And it's like, oh yeah, that was a thing, wasn't it? Like it's a character
There's
that's
a
so
ton of great
important.
Easter eggs all over that game.
Oh, it was definitely a labor of love. You could tell that. But there's so much about this character that's unknown. It's a blank canvas almost. You have two events of consequence that are set in stone. You cannot have them change, and that's the death of Jason at Crystal Lake as a child, and her going crazy and killing everyone, and then Jason's rebirth from the lake at the end of the first movie. Those two events are the only must-haves in Pamela Voorhees' story. Everything else is blank slate, right? Paint your own picture here. And I like that. I hope they do a good job of it. I would have been more comfortable in Fuller's hands because, like you said, Hannibal was so amazing for that. Like, but at the same time, you look at it and be like, well, he'd just kind of be doing Hannibal over again, only in a different venue. But it was so damn good. I'm okay with that, and would have been okay with that. But hopefully there's enough, planned and sketched out that even without him still being there, they can sort of, cobble together based on those ideas and those pitches and work it and do it and make it something like that without being that. And I don't know, like I've said, I'm cautiously optimistic. I'm hopeful that this turns into something, and that something is good. I don't need the New Line era of Friday the 13th movies over again. I don't need that. But there's a lot of meat on this bone. I think there's a lot of story potential on this bone, and I'd like to see how they play it out and how it works.
Any other Friday thoughts, anyone? All right.
I'm good.
Let's move on. Okay, so gonna go a little out of order here, and so that way we can get Matt off a little earlier. There's a terrible phrasing.
Why? Why?
You could have just skated by without drawing the attention to it, and then you drew the attention to it, and it's like, oh, he did just say that. Like, you could have just kept going and been like, nope, I'm not even gonna. Like, I hope they didn't notice. Now you're making us notice.
Yeah. Anyways, so Matt's been in our group chat lately, and we're entering some wrestling talk here. So if you're a Wrasslin fan, enjoy the next 10 minutes or so. But Matt's been going off in our wrestling chat lately about AEW and how not so good the product is, and how Tony Khan's an idiot, which I don't necessarily disagree with. And anyways, Matt's been salty. And hey, look, to me, hey, if you're buying pay-per-views, or committing your time to or committing your time to watching the product, any product for that matter, you have a right to voice your opinion. So let me get that out of the way now. And I was proud of Matt for voicing his opinion in the chat. Now I have to say that, Matt, I think you're fucking nuts. And this is coming from me. So hear me out here, brother. Let me state my case on this.
Okay.
I will never not say that Tony Khan needs help. He does. He needs help in the creative department. That's just a must. But as a guy who has only seen either select matches or long form highlights of most of the last several months, um, I gotta be honest. Where AEW is today compared to say 6 months ago, even a year ago, they're in a way better position today than they were then. I firmly believe that. I think the product is way more watchable today than it was a year ago. Even 6 months ago. I think there are decisions that are being made in front of the camera and behind the camera that make sense. But the other big thing that makes me, other than the Death Rider shit, Johnny can get a hard on all he wants for that shit. That shit's fucking awful, and I think it's terrible. And then to see what they did, 2 nights ago, was it now?
Yeah.
Like, just like enough's enough. Like,
I mean, you're justifying Moxley's
so like,
overdue belt need. I don't want to get it.
I'm just
He
saying
should have lost the
that
belt.
while I'm praising
Period.
them for being much better, in my opinion, lately, the Death Riders thing I don't think is one of those things that's much better. I think it's awful.
That's
And
what's hindering the product.
And well, that you won't get
Yeah,
me to
but
disagree with.
ratings
But
are up. Attendance
Ratings might
is
be
up.
up for other stuff.
No,
but you can't
ratings
justify
are up for his segments.
well, I
Look
don't.
at the
I don't know.
quarter
If,
hours.
I don't know if we can say attendance is up. They're in much smaller venues now.
Oh, the
but
attendance is
Yes,
not
but
up.
they're filling up their venues every week.
yes,
What?
which is good.
20
And I think
people?
the small venue thing's I think it was the best thing they could have done. And I like when they go to like unique places and it has like that, certain unique look to them. There's been a few places they've gone to with that. Um, but yeah, no, the Death Riders thing I think's fucking awful.
It's overdue, and then you justify Swerve losing the belt by bringing the Young Bucks back, who the people do not give a shit about.
Yeah, because the crowd was so quiet when that happened.
I mean, of course you're gonna get some reaction out of it. He got fucked.
Well, I'll say this: I think the Young Bucks are far more irrelevant today than they were.
Oh, I
All that
agree.
brawl
I just, I mean, there's our. I'm not gonna say the whole thing is crap because it's not. I mean, I think they did. I think they did. I think they did great with Hangman. I think this angle, what they're going to do with MJF and the Hurt Syndicate, that could be interesting. There are some interesting things, but it's almost like Roman Reigns having the belt for as long as he did. And then hardly ever. The only time
3 months is 4 years.
I'm not saying it's 4 years. I mean, but I'm saying it feels like
a 4-year angle to one that's barely going on 4 months.
But it feels like it. It feels.
You watch the product every week.
This is going to be another Roman Reigns type.
Do you watch it every week?
For the most part. If I'm not sitting down in front of it, I've got it on in the background, and I'm doing stuff around the house, and I'm at least listening to it.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I mean, it's not everything is going to hit with everyone, right?
No, not. I mean, not everybody's going to be, or is going to watch it for every single segment either. People are drawn to certain segments, and I get that, but you can't justify how they're. Moxley's been held the belt, but is he truly defending it? Other than
money
PLEs?
Is up. What? Roman Reigns' success is dictated on business is up. Ratings are up. He's a success. He's the GOAT.
Moxley.
I think we should be careful with the AEW ratings things being up though. Like I'm on board with. I think
temper expectations, my friend.
I think Matt's been overly critical in our staff chat.
Matt's
of,
quoting JD from New York in the chat.
of-
I don't.
I like him.
Then you're an idiot.
I like some of his takes.
Man, it's
Is that is that like the balding loudmouth guy?
Yes.
Okay.
Hey,
Not
I'm
that there's
voting.
only
I'm a
one of
loud
them,
mouth.
but
Randy can agree.
You know, for me, like, I just think the product's better now than it was a year ago.
I will agree with you on that.
I don't like the Death Rider stuff.
I don't either.
But there's a lot of I don't like Mercedes Monet either. I'm sorry.
I think she's.
That's a personal thing though. That's just a me thing.
I think she's. I mean, she's held the belt for what? At least 6 months, I want to say. I mean,
Okay.
I think it's time to take it off of her. I just don't think it's right. They didn't use back when we were kids when we loved wrestling.
Back when we were kids, they used to change the belt every week. They handed that thing around like a hot potato.
Exactly.
Hey,
shit then.
Hey, you don't need to be taking shots at me, man. I've already had to be basically homeless for the last 11 days without power, and now you're taking shot at Bret Hart's 1-day reign. Don't do that to me, man. It's not cool. It still stings.
Good
Damn.
lord.
It still stings, man.
I wasn't even gonna go there, but you know. I mean,
I'm not even talking about that era. I'm talking about the Attitude Era, where you'd get a title change 2-3 times a month.
I wouldn't say that, but 3 months.
So,
I mean, it just feels
we
like
had the belt for 4 years in the 80s. Nobody was complaining.
It was COVID too.
So
I fall in the middle, right? Like I see some of what Matt's saying, but I still think Matt's being overly critical for where the product is right now. And I think the product, and this is coming from a guy that has only watched select matches and those long form 25-minute highlights where it jumps a lot in the matches because they're trying to squeeze a 2-hour show into 25 minutes. But so, you know, my opinion is distorted, but from what I have seen and why I stopped watching, I didn't like where it was going. But from what I see today, I see character depth being added to guys like Hangman and Swerve, and I don't know about MJF, but like I just really like a lot of what's going on. But one thing I do think is crap, though, to shift gears here a little bit, and this is coming from a guy who's a diehard CM Punk fan, and it's not just that match, but like the Mania bills in general for WWE is dog shit. Dog shit. You have CM Punk, and I'll go to bat with my Punk flag held high, who was in the best feud in wrestling last year, him and Drew. Drew deserves a ton of credit for how good that went, but so does Punk. And you have Roman, who's been a money machine while business has been hot, as Johnny said. They made him this new character essentially over the last half decade. And then Seth, well, I don't like, is a big fan favorite of others. And the way that they are using, and when I say they, I guess we got to look at Paul Levesque, TV time. What we're actually getting in terms of content leading into this Mania match between these three is nothing short of awful.
That's why they're pulling Paul into it.
I think Paul was always going to be part of it. That's the whole point of doing it. But for me, like it's just going nowhere at all. And like nothing's happening. It's just here it is. Here's your match, and it's not just like with that either. There's shit going on with the women's 3-way, and like I was pleasantly surprised when I chose to get back into watching WWE when Punk went back. That I thought, hey, this is mildly entertaining. But I can sit here and tell you, over the course of the last Oh, I don't know. 2 months, maybe 2 months, probably. They go on their big European tour that I have been incredibly let down by the product they've put on and have found it almost unwatchable. Now, I'm not sitting here saying AEW is going to take over WWE, and I do believe the two companies are competition, but there's no threat of that anytime in our near future. Um, but right now, the WWE product I find not very enjoyable at all, to be frank. And it doesn't need to be that way. Some of this stuff is layup level stuff, in my opinion, anyway. And it's just not good. Now, Johnny, I know you love going on half an hour tangents with this stuff, but in 3 minutes or less, maybe give your response to my take on the WWE product over the last couple of months. Do you think I'm close or off or whatever?
No, I think you're on point. That's a terrible thing because it is that. It's SOS. It's same old shit. Like if I woke up from a coma last month and exclusively watched the shows without any of the backstage drama, and somebody said to me, Vince isn't booking anymore, I'd be like, bullshit! Because it's the same old shit. It's the same stuff. There's no difference in the product today than there was 6 years ago in that regard. Like, yeah, okay, they're maybe putting a bit more emphasis on in-ring talent. Storytelling's still the same. The stories are still the same because it's the same writers writing the same bullshit. Like it's the univoice. It's still the univoice. Like when you have 15, 20 writers writing the material for all these guys, it's all going to sound the same. And guess what? It does. That's why you can tell the difference between a CM Punk promo and a Chad Gable promo, because CM Punk will look at the script and say, that's nice, and set it down, and then cut a promo, because he has the ability to do that. These cookie cutter talents that are brought up in the PC without ever working and paying their dues in the indies don't know how to cut a promo. They know how to read a script, and you can tell. And every time you get that, it's that, like you can see the difference. Like you look at prime example of this is any major Roman Reigns promo in the last 5 years. You put him against the guy who can cut a promo and a guy who can't. Guess who's going to be the one doing the talking for 90% of that segment? And it ain't Roman Reigns, it's Paul Heyman, because he knows how to talk. He knows how to feel the crowd. He knows how to speak, and he can do it. And he is one of the best at it, bar none. He is a generational talent in his ability to speak. But there are so many guys that can't do that. And it's factual to say that, like, a lot of these guys, it's not the in-ring talent that always puts you in the seat. It's not. I love it. I think it's great. But in the WWE, that's not what puts you in the seats. It's the promos, it's the talking, it's the characters. Those are what puts you in the seat. And so many guys sound the same. Like so many of these promos sound the same. How different are the like I sat there this week watching Raw with my mom. I'm watching the Jay Gunther segment, and I'm like, shit, I watched this last year. This is the Sammy program all over again. Because it's no different. It's the exact same program. Like, instead of Sammy's wife, it's Jay's mom. Like, it's no different. It's the same fucking shit in another year. Only now it's the main event program, like the world title program, not for the Intercontinental. It's the same exact program, promo for promo for promo. And that hit me this week like a brick in the face. Like, oh shit, this is last year. Like, we're recycling scripts at this point. It's ridiculous. Like, Triple H might be a good booker, but he's not a good writer. He might be a good talent guy, but this is not a skill he possesses. He might be great putting these matchups together, but the segments just aren't doing it. They're reusing so much stuff, doing it all over again. So much of last year's stuff is this year's stuff. your world title program is the exact same one he did a year ago with a new person. So I mean, it's the only original thing on this card in a big level program is Cody and John, and that's the one that's not getting attention because of John's schedule.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if John's there every
which is a
week,
mess in itself.
absolutely. Like, if John's there every week and they're building to that the way they should be building to that, I have no issue with that. You know, like the promo last week, chef's kiss. It was amazing because that's two guys who know how to cut a promo. Cody, thank God, learned from his father.
Yep.
You know, and John, it came from, you know, he's one of the last of those guys.
Dying
You know,
breed.
he was an indie guy for so long. Like, people don't realize that John actually cut his teeth and paid his dues in the California Indies in the early 2000s. He cut his teeth with Samoa Joe in this business. He knows what he's doing out there. And you see the other side of that, Gunther and Jay, and it's like, oh, I've seen this before. Because Jay doesn't know how to cut a promo. Not well. Like, sometimes it comes through, but sometimes it doesn't. Like, he can yeet. He's got charisma. He's got it. But he's not going to sell me a story that gets me in the seat.
But I know
And
that
Gunther,
Charlotte
God
Tiffany,
love him.
that
Gunther,
Charlotte
God
Tiffany,
love him. But English not his first language. So, as great as he is, it's, you know, sometimes he stumbles in the talking part and the
he's
speaking
not bad
part.
though.
I'm not saying he is. I think he's great. He is he's the epitome of, I do my action in the ring.
Right.
You know, my in-ring speaks for me, and I'm okay with that. And you go to the other side with Tiffany and Charlotte, and that's stupid shit. They cut out the one part of that segment that actually got me excited is the part of the segment they cut out because it got too real.
I know, right?
If you can't stand the heat, stay out of the kitchen. If you're going to give these people live mics, let them work. You took those reins off when you stopped making these taped shows. Like, people are going to go off
the thing about it,
and they're going to get heated and they're going to get excited. And that's what people are going to sink their teeth into. The people coming out of that, like, you know, you're 0 for 3 in marriage, like, shit. Because, like, that's real. Like, if you look at her history, yeah, it's not good. But then you look deeper into that and you learn some things. And it's like, oh, this is not a good story. We shouldn't be doing this.
And all she could come back was, Lubbock's in my DMs. No, he's not. We know better.
But even that is still like, oh, okay, we're going there. We're gonna get real.
Mm-hmm.
It's believable. It's real. And you're like, okay, I like this. And then 24 hours later, oh, no. You weren't supposed to get real.
I thought we were trying to go back to the attitude level a little bit, but and that was like a brief glimpse, and then the next day you're like, no, back to PC. I'm like, oh,
I saw that. I'm watching it, and I'm like, oh shit.
I saw it live.
Care about this now?
Yeah.
Like, is this going to get good? Are we going there? And then 24 hours later, we've edited it out of the YouTube videos because no, we don't want that. Like, well, I don't care now. That's
I heard it.
Started. That's not even getting started on the Becky and Bianca and EO and that's bullshit in and of itself. But we'll leave that out of this. But you know, I just, so much is same old shit, and it shows because guess what? For the first time in 20 years, they're struggling to sell out WrestleMania.
Yeah, I heard that.
Oh, you know what? Their asinine prices also
absolutely does not help. Let's be honest. Neither does the political situation in the world. Obviously, you know, there are real factors at play, but you're pricing yourself out of your own market. The rest of the world is saying, yeah, maybe I just don't want to go to Vegas.
No.
And then you're putting on the same old shit that people are like, you know what? Maybe I'll just stay at home and watch this. I don't need to go. Like, even people in the area are like, yeah, you know what? I'm just going to watch it on TV.
Randy's like, I've done it once. I ain't doing it again.
Not till 50.
I'd love to do it, but ain't at these prices.
Randy, closing thought?
I mean, you guys are all right. It hasn't been great. Obviously, Cena and Cody last week, like Johnny said, chef's kiss. Obviously, with John's schedule, it makes it really hard to really build off of that, which is a shame. But ultimately, it's like you look at the matches we were getting, and where's the build for a majority of them? There's just not a whole lot there, and even a match like AJ Logan Paul, there's a little bit of back and forth, but nothing to really sink your teeth into that makes you even want the match. Because honestly, I never enjoy seeing Logan Paul on my screen, but that's just me. Such a douche. But ultimately, again, you're trying to find a way to bring some of that magic back you had for 40, and that's not possible. It's just not. And that's the one thing these guys need to get out of their heads is 40 was big because it was a milestone, and they left it all out on the table, and they were at their peak when WrestleMania 40 hit last year. This year, it's time to start building again, and start changing direction so that you can be an industry leader. And they're not. It seems like they've taken a step back as a whole, especially with this build up to 41. And so a lot of these matches are chalked. Like they're already, it's like you already know who's going to win, who's going to lose. That takes a lot out of it. And at least with some of the stuff we got last year versus this year, there was at least some mystery. Even though you had your suspicions, this year there's no mystery. None. These interactions, these shitty interactions, aren't helping. Am I going to watch it? Yeah. Hopefully there'll be some surprises. Hopefully I can be wrong about how I'm saying some of this stuff is chalked already. But ultimately, they are failing on a lot of levels here, leading up to what's supposed to be their Super Bowl.
Yeah, I agree. And like you, I'll be watching. But just feels like there was a bunch of other directions that could have been taken that were more appealing, not just to myself, but it seems like the majority of the fan base. And I don't know. Got to give AEW credit. I think they're on the uptrend, minus their um, Death Rider stuff. And frankly, I know Johnny's a Young Bucks guy, but I don't think the Young Bucks have done anything good in a couple of years. So hopefully that changes and AEW continues their upward trajectory. And hopefully WWE finds a way to right the ship because, for me, it's too soon to already be feeling like, oh my God, I'm struggling to get through this. And like, unless it's a segment or match that I really want to watch, I'm only half paying attention anyways. I have it on in the background sort of thing, like Matt was talking about earlier. Um, and I'm finding even that being a tough watch lately. And when that's a tough watch, something's not going good. All right, let's get Matt out of here for the night, dude. Thanks for coming by, sharing your thoughts, contributing, talking some horror with us, and
Yeah.
just hope you're well, man. Appreciate everything you
All
do.
right. Yeah. Well, thank you. Y'all gentlemen have a good night.
You too, man.
You too, buddy. You get a better taste in football teams. All right. I'll move Johnny up here since he's no longer in a place where you can see me anyway. I mean, I guess I could have kept Matt around for this next one. I didn't think about it. But retro video game cases, ladies and gentlemen. Lately, I've been watching all these videos of people who have all these old school video game cases from like, PS2, PS1, Dreamcast, Genesis, Super Nintendo, N64, NES, Game Boy. Um, we had so many different styles of cases. Um, some there was more room for artwork than others. Uh, they're super rare to get now, but think back in the day when PlayStation first came out and what those cases looked like. A lot of people will jump to, oh yeah, it's the CD case. No, no, it was not. They had those big ass tall cases when the PlayStation first came out. Um, I think there were, I want to say Sega had a similar style case for one of their
I think it was the
weird
CDs.
Dreamcast.
CD.
consoles they had.
Sega
CD?
CD.
Yeah,
No, it
Sega
was
CD
CD,
had it, and I
Saturn.
think I think either Saturn or Dreamcast had them as well.
Might have been Saturn, because Dreamcast was just regular dual disc.
Then it was Saturn,
Yeah,
Sega Saturns. Yeah.
Dreamcast was the CD case like PlayStation. But like, I loved seeing them because like, hey, it's 2025, and these cases look like if you didn't know what you were looking at, that it's a brand new case. Like the condition was awesome. So like, I was jonesing for it, guys. Couldn't get enough of it. And it just made me think, hey, what's everybody's favorite retro video game case? Now, you can obviously give us some titles that you might have in mind from whatever console it is, but I just mean the style. Like if you were to walk into a massive, retro video game outlet store that had all these old cases in mint condition, like what are you going to first? If there's hundreds in each, what are you going to look at first? What catches your eye the most out of retro video game cases? Johnny, give us one. We'll go around in a circle a couple of times.
I don't really have one, because I don't. I I've never been big on cases, like for really anything. Like, rip it out of the box, take it out of the case, and throw the box away. Is always how I operated. Um, I I don't know. I mean, if I walked in on like a retro,
Oh, Johnny's having technical difficulties, and we'll be back after this. I'll be good.
I mean, I don't care what it looks like on the outside, because I'm not displaying them like that. Even if I'm buying them, like even if I had like an old school, complete collection, it'd probably still be sideways or,
Come on
spine
now,
out.
though. I've been at midnight releases with you where you get the special edition case of a game. There's got to be something that stands out.
Yeah, I keep the statues, but the cases just end up sideways or in a corner, nook and cranny part of the collection. Like I'm looking at it and I see all of the statues, all of the collectible stuff like that, like the night vision goggles and the RC cars over in the other corner. Like that just, the cases weren't the part of the special edition stuff that I cared about. I don't,
Hurting
I'm
my
more
feet.
in the look of all their games, like the cartridge. Like that's what I'm nostalgic for, is the cartridge.
So, like
Seeing the different
Maximum
styles of
Carnage for
cartridge.
SNES.
Yeah, because it was different. It had the red cartridge. Nobody else had a red cartridge. Like it's what stood out. Like same with like you look at your N64 games. No Mercy, WrestleMania 2000. They were black cartridges. Like that. Excuse me. Donkey Kong being yellow. Those are what stand out for me, is the funky cartridges, not the cases. Like I don't. Like sure there are some that look great. Like I think there was. It might have even been Maximum Carnage. I think for was the Genesis one. I think had an amazing cover art for the case, but like actual case styles, I don't get so much nostalgic for that. But cover arts and cartridges, those are those get my jimmies rustled. But like the look of the case, I don't care what the case looks like. I care about what's on it and in it.
He's speechless.
I was muted. I didn't know I was muted. Wow, yes, Johnny was way to rain on the parade. So I'll I'll bring the passion. As someone who's not a big Nintendo guy, I have to say Nintendo did it right. Like, I didn't really care for the NES cases, but you start to get into Super Nintendo, that rectangular case that it's iconic. It's black. Usually has some games didn't, but most games sold you with a badass picture on the front. Like, who doesn't remember the iconic Mario Kart cover for that game for SNES? I do agree with Johnny's point about the cartridges. Like, um, Maximum Carnage stands out to me. I feel like one of the Killer Instinct games might have been black too.
I think it was
Uh,
purple, but
I can't remember, but like, I just loved the cases. And then to this day, what gets me the most is the N64 cases. I just think they're the best video game case in the world. Um, Again, much like the SNES cases. Sorry, I'm on a different level than Jay to the kids right now, and I feel like I'm hearing stuff happen through a vent right now. One of the little ones getting in trouble. Hard to not get distracted. Um, but anyway, the N64 cases, I just love them. Like, they're fantastic. Looking at the cover art to all of them, I think if you have an opportunity to just Google N64 cases or go YouTube someone looking through some like mid condition N64 cases, a lot of the cover art's just, it's far more creative than what you get today for a lot of cover art on video games. I think cover art on video games today suck, in my opinion. Like, you get the odd good one, but most of it's just plain, generic, and boring. But I guess that's the way of the world if you look at like what a new McDonald's looks like these days. So, um, Randy, you have any thoughts on old video game cases? Any preferences? Ones you liked, ones you didn't?
So, for me, I could be like, I'm going to go all the way back to Atari but all they were was cartridges. They didn't really have a case. I mean, if you want to go box art, they were still not great. But for me, obviously, having played so many different games throughout the years, if you want to talk cartridges, when you get some of you get the gold ones that are Legend of Zelda for the NES, or you get the red ones like Doom on the SNES. But then, of course, you look at you go to PlayStation when they finally went to the actual CD cases versus what they originally put out there. And for me, like, the cover art is kind of what really drew me in for those for more than anything else. Like with the Final Fantasy series with 7, 8, and 9, Legend of Dragoon, like that artwork on those cases easily made me just like, okay, I'm interested in this game. But obviously, those are also classics as well. On top of it, they really were great games. But if you're going to go back, obviously, I was a huge Sega Genesis guy. I liked a lot of the artwork on the boxes. I thought it was cool to have a big old cartridge, a little tiny cartridge in a big old box. It's not like a Neo Geo cartridge, which is the same size as the big ass box. It just made absolutely no sense. But yeah, it's similar to Johnny in a sense. It wasn't so much the case for me as it was the box art. But don't get me wrong, there were some really cool cases out there that if I saw mint, I'd be like, that's awesome. It's mint. Just because nowadays you don't get to see a lot of retro stuff mint in the box. Some even still shrink wrapped, which is impressive. But yeah, It'd be fun to dive into, though. I'm not gonna lie, just because I'd be curious as to the reasons behind some of the cases they went with, and was it an aesthetic a reason? Was it maximum keeping dust out of the cartridge at the time? Stuff like that. It'd be really cool to just kind of dive into that and really see what that's all about. Especially from Nintendo, because clearly those black cases that the cartridges slid into the sleeves didn't do a whole good job of keeping dust out of them damn things. So I digress. But it's interesting that you are as passionate about it as you are. But I think it's cool. It's not something I would ever really think about. But you actually, now I'm gonna have to go start digging into it, because I'm kind of curious to see what it's all about.
I mean, part of it's nostalgia too, right? Like you watch an
Yeah.
old YouTube video, or not even an old one, a new one, where someone has a collection of like 100 old N64 games, and you're used to seeing the cartridges, but like they actually have the cases in mint condition. It's just fun seeing cover art that maybe you remember seeing every time you'd go into a Walmart back in the day, or Toys R Us back in the day, and you'd see it all the time. But then you realize, oh, I haven't seen this in 25 years, and here it is again. I don't know. There's something about that resonates more with me for N64. I always thought like the PlayStation and the Dreamcast were lazy. Not PlayStation's first case, but when they switched to the CD case, I thought it was lazy and cheap. Like because my parents used to have so many CDs that it was like, why are we doing CD cases? Like, do we need to do CD cases? Can we not be more creative than CD cases? But yeah, the N64 was where it was at for me.
I mean, I remember
Um,
the first time I saw the Shadows of the Empire box, I was like, oh, I got to get my hands on this.
Classic, sleek.
The cover art was phenomenal.
Yep. Dash Rendar, Shizor, both having a heavy presence. Um, Even the Rogue Squadron cover art with the X-wings, just
Mm-hmm.
so iconic, flying over Tatooine, and it's badass. And yeah, no, I love the N64 cases. Johnny, did you have a follow-up thought, or are you just so anti-case you don't care?
Oh, well, I mean, you phrase this question as case styles, and that's where I went with it. When in reality, you turn this into a discussion of cover arts and box arts, which is an entirely different animal altogether. Box arts were, amazing. They were unique. They were fun. Loved the box art. I didn't care what the box looked like. Like I said, it's what's on it and in it. That's what I cared about. So, like, if we're talking box arts, yeah, there's a lot of great box arts. Like we talked about, there's so many great ones, but like GoldenEye had a great cover. I like the Killer Instinct boxes. Like Street Fighter always came with a good cover art. Mortal Kombat was the generic one. Mortal Kombat had a very generic box art for what was not that, which in hindsight makes sense because in reality they were getting enough crap for the content that they couldn't really put much on the cover, so they made up for it with the Dragon Head logo and what have you. But there's so many great box arts that are like, Randy, you touched on all the old school RPG ones. Final Fantasy always had a great box art. Like I personally, Final Fantasy 7, Final Fantasy 8, those stand out. You mentioned Legend of Dragoon, which is a game I haven't thought about in a very long time. Had a great cover art. I like that. The Nintendo always had a great box art department, for everything. Like you mentioned Mario Kart, great box art, but like I think of like my favorite was Mario RPG. That
Oh
box art
yeah.
was amazing. The only really generic one was, outside of like the Super Mario Bros. Games. Those have always been very generic, but everything after that wasn't.
Think of the Royal Rumble game for the Super Nintendo. Like to me, that box is iconic. You know what? You're a hater.
I've
You
always found
showed us
wrestling.
tonight
I've
there's a
always found
hate.
wrestling game box arts to be generic because they're just pictures of wrestlers.
Flash
Like
forward
it's
to Andor episode 12, watch party people. He's going to complain about someone's hair and it's going to ruin the whole episode for him.
no, but I mean, wrestling box arts were always just that. They were just wrestlers. It's no different than a wrestling magazine. it just with more generic
Wrestling
photos.
magazines were classic back in the day. I loved seeing
Well,
the
yeah.
WWF logo in the top corner.
Yeah, no, they were the generic ones. Give me
Yeah,
like
I
the
know.
aftermaths. Those were the
Mike's
good
Variety
ones.
had all the heavy stuff too. I had a few
Yeah,
issues.
they did. That's where I'd get my aftermags.
Let me tell you, during my 11-day stay back down here with I shouldn't say 11, more like 8 days because we had a few days out there. Um, Finding out it's been replaced by a Japanese cheesecake shop, along with some of the other things that have been replaced, had me feeling like this isn't home anymore, sir. um, but that's a story for a different day. Yeah, it iconic imagery, really, like, and nostalgia too, for sure, brings back memories of when you'd go to a store when you were a kid and seeing certain things. I don't remember too much seeing Super Nintendo games for sale. Like, I'm sure I did, but I do remember seeing them all the time at Blockbuster. Loved seeing them at Blockbuster. Um, Anyways, what we're gonna do right now is we are going to take, let's say, 5 to 7 minutes to get set up here for our Andor Season 1, Episode 12 watch party, the finale, my personal favorite episode in the show. So we are going to watch that, and we'll be back in 7 to 10 minutes. Grab a drink, grab a snack. We'll find somewhere to timestamp it, and we'll get ready to watch some Andor, fellas. So we'll be back after this, and when I have a moment, just want to say thank you to our channel sponsors. Without you, we wouldn't be here. Jason over at Backtrack Cinema, Ryan at Colic Nation, Maddie, who was on earlier, and Jesse, who was in the chat. Jesse's Storytime Spectacular. Check out all the channels. Great content creators, great people, worth spending your time with. But yes, coming up next, Andor Season 1 finale watch party, Season 2 around the corner. We'll be back. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are back, getting ready for episode 12, season 1, the finale, Rick's Road, for Star Wars Andor, as we begin our journey to Star Wars Andor season 2, which we will be covering extensively on the channel over the course of April and May. Really looking forward to it. Before we dive into it, though, Johnny, I'll get your thoughts. What do you think of episode 11, man? And actually, you know what? I'm going to make you go second. Randy, you watched episode 11 today. You were thoughtful enough to mention that off the top. Why don't you give us a brief rundown of what you thought of that episode?
It was basically that it's what a penultimate episode should be. It literally had everything, all the players, all the pieces getting moved into position for the finale, and they did an excellent job with that. We also get to see just how much of a badass Luthen is, given the ship he flies. That little space battle he had just getting away from the Empire, I thought that was just, it made me realize that I want to know more about this character. Is Luthen even his real name? Like, I want to know his reasoning behind starting the rebellion. I want to know what training he's had, because
Can I get a day pass for him?
because
Wait, a hall pass. I meant a hall pass.
because clearly this dude knows how to fly. He knows how to get out of sticky situations, and it seems like he's always 3 steps ahead. And I need to know what he did before becoming, an art dealer. So it's one of those things where you don't think about it until you kind of revisit it. Because when my first watch through, it didn't even dawn on me that how much I wanted to know about this character. And now that I get that second watch through, there's no surprises, no anything. It's just, holy shit, this guy really is a badass. I need more. And obviously we'll get more of him in season 2, but ultimately, it'd be really cool if they actually took that into consideration of saying, you know what, we've created some really great characters here that we don't really have fleshed out backstories for. There's always potential for that. But ultimately, it got me excited to watch the finale, and I'm really excited to just hope, and I hope here that Johnny gets a lot out of this last episode. I'm really hoping for that, but I guess we'll have to wait and see.
Johnny, what do you think of the penultimate episode of season 1?
I mean, like Randy said, it's at the table. Again, you get the more interesting players are the ones the series not named after. But you're definitely setting up for getting some more into Cassian's story here in the finale. Building up to the funeral and all that stuff, and it's. I don't want to say I'm more interested in his story now, but I'm not less interested in it, which isn't saying much because I wasn't interested in it at all to start with. But it's the additional characters in the story that I'm most interested in. As has been the case throughout most of the season. You're building up towards something important. Luthen has been a runaway favorite, in this series, and like I said last week, I'm definitely enjoying the depth of Mon Mothma. Because she is a character that is important, but they've never until now, outside of legends and books stuff, have never really done a very good job of showing in any format that we've been presented so far. So getting that is interesting. Seeing how far she's willing to go for the rebellion and all of that. It does a great job of making her more than just a political face for the rebellion that she kind of was prior to this. She was a political animal, not someone who sort of got their hands dirty, but now you're learning that she did in a much different way. It's fun to me. Like we said, Luthen, he's if the series had been Luthen, I definitely would have been more interested. Because again, like I said, that character has just stolen my interest in this. Like Randy said, he's a character I'd like to. If we've made the joke many times. Andor is the story we didn't ask for. Luthen is the story I'm asking for, because that's a character I'd like to know his backstory. I'm interested in knowing his story and where it goes, how it ends. Because obviously, he's not a player we see in later stories. He's not someone we hear about in the original trilogy. He's not someone who's around after that, and we don't know how his story ends. Obviously, he's not on the Rogue One mission, so we know that's not where his story ends. So where does his story end? Because I think he's too important a character to not have been mentioned in the original trilogy if he's still around. So I'm interested to know just how his House of Cards falls.
I think you're going down the right way. Like, I don't think there's any chance we go to season 2 and don't see Luthen's death. Like, that monologue he gave in, what was it, episode 10, about, sacrificing and fighting for a sunset or a sunrise he knows he'll never see.
Mm-hmm.
They've done such an incredible job. Tony Gilroy, the directors, the other writers, Skarsgård. Excuse me. On the effectiveness of that character and just how well it's been written, that in my opinion this is one of those rare circumstances where it actually makes the rebellion from the original trilogy seem even more interesting because of what they've done with this character.
Yeah.
Also, while we're having this little pre-show talk, we're going to be starting at 2 minutes 20 seconds. Andor logo should be just fading out. Still there, but starting to fade out. 2 minutes, 20 seconds, episode 12, season 1. Get your episodes there, ladies and gentlemen. Really stoked for this. This honestly might be one of my favorite episodes of Star Wars TV, period, if not my favorite. And, that's saying a lot, because I really love episode 6 of Kenobi. And I love the finale of season 2 of Mandalorian, of course. Johnny, thoughts, expectations heading into the finale? I know it's been a roller coaster. I think it's safe to say it's not as bad as you initially thought. But I think you hit the point with the characters. Like, if someone holds a gun to my head and says, "Hey, which 2 characters are your favorite?" Obviously, only from season 1. We haven't seen season 2. My answers are immediately Luthen, Mon Mothma. One after the other. Like, that just is. So
yeah. I don't even think Andor makes the 3. I think Andy Serkis's character is probably my 3.
Honestly, maybe Marva, 3 for me. Although maybe I'm peeling back the curtain a little too much there. So, any final thoughts before we begin our Andor finale watch?
Let's do it.
All righty, we'll go on go as usual.
From what time?
Sorry, what?
From what timestamp?
2:20.
I thought you said the Andor logo was still up.
It shows up for me. Is it not for you?
At 2:20, it's someone working on a circuit board?
Oh, okay. I might be at 2:19. 1 second.
It might be like 2:16.
I went to 2:20. It is someone on a circuit board. Okay, so it's the circuit board, 2:20. You've missed nothing. It's the first shot.
Well, obviously. I can see it 2:16, the Andor logo, so I thought that maybe that's where you were.
Randy, are you good?
Good to go.
All right, once again, ladies and gentlemen, we are starting from 2:20. Circuit board is on screen. Star Wars Andor Season 1, Episode 12 finale. As we prepare for our Andor Season 2 coverage, we will go on go. 3, 2, 1, go. That is a breathtaking shot.
And the use of the lighting was definitely top notch there.
Yeah.
There was no stagecraft used in this shot. What a prick. Why do I get the feeling that's not a toaster?
This is Star Wars. It could be anything. It could be a bomb. It's probably a bomb.
I'm just saying, toasters can be useful.
I mean, it technically could be a toaster, just not in the literal sense of what you're thinking.
I mean, human flesh will probably get toasted. Does that count?
Hoping
I
for the
mean, there
kind
you
that
go.
toasts bread.
Oh, it'll toast bread on top of it. Don't forget.
Ooh, mine's feeling a little hot. Oh, it's this scene. What a sneaky, conniving genius.
She feels like shit. Now I am a real politician.
I was gonna say, don't you gotta have my girl like that?
She
Here I am. I was on my way to pick you up.
threw poor Perrin under the bus, and he didn't even do anything wrong, just to direct attention at him.
Boss showed up tonight. Good to see you too.
Ah, love is in the air tonight. To Johnny's point, I will say we needed more of that throughout the first 11 episodes.
That did more to make me care about Cassian's interactions than anything else. Since like episode,
Yeah,
since he
that's
left.
kind of the MO of this episode. I like that he got that little voiceover. I was sad when they killed him off in episode 6. I thought he was one of the best parts of those 3 episodes.
Well, and I think it was the way it was done to kind of help show where Cassian was with his train of thought and and you could see in his eyes what he's getting ready to do. So it really just kind of shows the type of effect that Nemec did have on him in just that short amount of time.
Was a past president, local annoyance. Not your typical Disney or Star Wars rating either. Oppression is the mask of fear. Some deep shit. So that was our confirmation that Saw Gerrera sent those guys.
There's definitely quite the interaction between Luthen and Saw that last episode. So but it's typical Saw as well, where he's just like, I got to be out for myself and the people around me, and that's about it.
That ship is badass. Not just the moment that we seen in last episode, but everything about it, its design, its look. Love it.
I'm sure if we look hard enough online, we could probably find models of it. That'd be cool to own, though, for sure.
It's about goddamn time.
What?
Emotion in Cassian.
Oh, for sure. Oh, that's a tearjerker line. Tony Gilroy writing. Oh. These fucking guys.
Somewhere during the season, they turned into Bulk and Skull. And I don't know where it was. But just looking at them right now, I can visually I can see it now.
Yeah.
Not when I'm drinking.
Half expected Hellbells to start playing there. I think you're muted, sir.
Somebody on TikTok definitely made that an edit.
I have no doubt in that at all.
Randy, this next sequence is probably, I'll just say, yeah, it's my favorite in all of Disney Star Wars. Disney Plus Star Wars.
I mean, they've given you some stuff to work with, but yeah, I can see why this would be for sure.
Come Balkan Skull. Oh, it's such a great analogy. Oh, B2. They did a
I was gonna
great
say I
job
think
with him.
B might be my favorite, my third.
Yeah. I think I agree.
I mean, just the what they gave in last episode alone, it was very heart wrenching
I
and
just remembered
heartbreaking.
what's about to happen. Never mind. No, he doesn't make the top 3. He's close, though. Top 5.
This music is feeling like it's Rocky. I'm just waiting for Gonna Fly Now to start.
It's great.
Either that or it's a John Cena WrestleMania entrance.
Watching it, and it still gives me those little chest flutters.
Yeah. So you know it's done its job.
The way his beard and hair looks, I'm getting Mel Gibson mugshot vibes.
Wow. Okay.
I figure out what it reminds me of. So like you're not wrong.
And that look from Luthen there. Moment of realization. Don't you dare touch B2. I think you're muted, Johnny.
Nope, just not saying anything. Well, yes, but I wasn't saying anything.
It's like, put that in the report. And how did the fight start? We pushed the droid over, sir.
After a dead woman rallied a planet to kick our ass.
I'm sorry, you're asking a stormtrooper to take down a target from that far away?
Luthen's realization during the speech, they're like, oh shit, I'm trying to kill the exact thing that I need, essentially. Here comes the toaster.
This is why we should store our explosives in blast-proof boxes.
I think he meant to do it.
Yes, that would have been a good idea to instill before that.
And I think it's safe to say some stormtroopers are toast now.
Hashtag Toastergate.
Yep, this is stormtroopers shooting into a crowd, and they've only hit one person. You'd think the Imperial tactic book would include a "Don't attack the high ground."
Those are the kills I love. The most awkward yet I need to see it couple on TV.
It's not my blood.
Poor Bulk. And there you have it, Andor season 1 in the books, mere weeks away from the premiere of season 2, which essentially will see us get 4 2-hour movies, but shaped in 3 episodes. So, can you pause that for me, please? Yeah, there you have it. Randy, I'll go to you first. Finale thoughts there. What do you think?
I like just give everybody playing their role, getting the we get to see the first, and probably I'm not saying the first, but we see a village fighting for their freedom, but we see also the chess pieces putting in that are being put into place to help the rebellion survive. Obviously, we know that Luthen doesn't kill Andor. There would be no season 2. There wouldn't have been a Rogue One, but it's interesting to see after rewatching it for the first time uh, that just the little like the looks, like the nuances that, like, especially like with Luthen, seeing his facial expressions during everything going down, everything that he was planning on doing, and it's it's interesting to just see these little things about this character where his soul isn't fully gone yet. It's pretty close. I mean, everything we've seen he done through the entire season, you would think he's lost his soul completely, but there's these little glimpses of hope that he's just not fully gone yet that we get to see, which is really cool. Um, Obviously, the speech to get everybody supercharged to fight the Empire is amazing. I was ready to fight the Empire after the first time when I watched that, and it's no different second time watching it. Obviously, the cliffhanger was meant to happen just because we knew we were getting season 2. Hopefully, and of course, we know season 2 leads up to, was it supposed to be the start of Rogue One? So, yeah, I mean, we're gonna see some characters this next season where we're going to see the end of them, and that's kind of a bummer to think about. I mean, maybe they survive, who knows? But all in all, this is like a great jumping off point for season 2, and I'm really excited for when that finally drops.
Yeah, it's not far away either. What's today, the 8th or the 9th? So like we're less than 2 weeks away from having season 2 and having that first 3 episode arc right away and doing content for it. Yeah, I love that finale, everything it stands for. That finale adds more depth to Andor's character than probably the other 11 episodes combined. Um, the music in it is, it tugs at the heartstrings. It's played at the right moments. The writing's just fantastic. Marva's monologue, like you get the monologue from Luthen in episode 10, and then Marva comes out and says, "Hold my beer" in the finale. And it's just like the acting's top notch. Things matter. You were mentioning like the looks and the nuances, Randy. Like if you look away, you can miss things, and there's almost like a Game of Thrones level detail in this series, even if it's not always the most mesmerizing. Um, it adds a lot, in my opinion. I really loved it, and basically from Marva's funeral on, it's just top quality stuff. 10 out of 10 for me. Johnny, what do you think?
Well, I mean that finale, it was the best episode of the season, bar none. There's no discussion of that. There was nothing in it that pulled me out of it, which was great. There was no point in that where I'm looking at it and being like, "Yo, why is that guy holding an AK-47?" Like it's. I was able to just be enveloped by the story, and actually feel, like I said off the rip there, like you said, this episode did more to humanize and get you interested in Cassian's story than the previous 11 episodes did, which is ridiculous for a show named after him. I think they should have done more to get you interested in him throughout the course of the story, and not, focused so heavily on Luthen and Mon Mothma, and not giving you a reason to care about Cassian until the very end. Um, you could feel the emotion in the moments. Like you could feel like, we talk about music a lot in a lot of different things, and you could feel that score. You could feel them building to the crescendo, in that, funeral procession and all of that. And like, I made the comment doing it. I feel like this is a Rocky theme, like, and it felt like that because you could feel it building and building and building and building, and that's what you want out of a score like that. Like it built up to the music and a moment, and then the speech. God damn, I wanted to run through a wall on that speech. It was good. That's what you want from a speech like that. It's the sports movie where the coach comes in at halftime and gives the rousing speech and gets the guys going, and they come back in the second half and win the game. It's that moment. You need that. You need that passion. You need that emotion, and you felt it. You could feel it all throughout that speech, and like you said, during it, you could feel the moment where Luthen realized, "Oh shit, I can't kill him. I need him." And there was so much going on that, even though the parts about Cassian were, in the grand scheme, fairly small, like for the duration of the episode, were very small parts of it. They were very significant parts of it, and that's the difference. Like, it showed you that you could have sort of sprinkled in these little bits of Cassian throughout the other previous 11 episodes, and would have done a lot more to endear you to his character, instead of just kind of making him an add-on to his own story, because that's sort of what the point of this is. And yes, you're kind of couching the creation and birth of the rebellion, while doing Cassian's story, and like it's you know it plays havoc a little bit. I don't want to say with, like, with Rebels, based on the timeline, we'd be at this point. How far out from Rogue One are we at the end of this episode?
5 years, I believe, because each 3 episodes are supposed to lead us into Rogue One in season
Okay, so I
two.
guess it doesn't play as much havoc as I thought. That just based on the timeline, so we're getting a pretty massive. See that I don't know. We're getting a pretty massive jump between season one and well, I guess it depends on how they play with the timeline in season two.
No, I don't think we're getting a jump. I mean, there'll be a
No,
bit
but
of a
that's what I'm
jump.
saying. Like if season two is building up to like the ending is the start of Rogue One,
I think
sort
the
of
big
thing.
things is it sounds like it's going to be a jump. Like I
Yeah,
don't think. I imagine
sort
the
of like a House of
events.
the Dragon, season one.
It's very confusing, right? Like I could see it being like so in the 3 episode sectors that we're getting in season two.
Mhm.
The events of those 3 episodes might take place over the course of
Yeah,
2 months, but then after that third episode, you're skipping 10 months ahead to the next year.
yeah, yeah.
They've already defined that. It depends how the story's constructed, but they define that that last sector will bring you to Rogue One.
Mhm.
So that's like the year leading to Rogue One, and then
So I guess it doesn't as much played quite as havoc with Rebels as I initially thought because I was putting the timeline closer to Rogue
I
One.
mean, no, they're right there with the Rebels.
No, but that's what I'm saying.
Both
Like it's early season Rebels sort of does play within the how
it does
fragmented and
trap them into
fractured.
the if it traps them in if the Rebels is canon, which it is,
Mhm.
that they can't just speculate about having Mon Mothma flee the Republic and the Senate. At some point in season two, she's got to do her big
Mhm.
call out Palpatine thing, and I would assume it's going to be Andor that helps her
Escape.
get off course on.
Yeah,
Like that, you can't not do that. You have trapped yourself into that, in my opinion.
I think that's probably like purely spitballing. I think that's where Luthen's going to meet the end of his story. It's him and Cassian kind of getting her out, and that's when Luthen's House of Cards crumbles, and that's where he has his, you know, his defining speech that he gives. Because I'm sure he'll have one, and Mon Mothma escapes with Cassian, while Luthen stays behind to die, kind of thing. That's my guess, but
It's
we'll
almost
see.
sad knowing that, unless they throw a massive swerve at us, that Luthen, like, I mean, his monologue was correct, or is going to prove to be correct more than
Mhm.
likely, in that not only does he not end up seeing the Death Star get destroyed, discovered and destroyed, but he doesn't see the rebellion topple the Empire, uh, despite all the sacrifices. It's adds some real weight to that story.
At this point, the only character of any consequence that we know is going to see that is Mon Mothma.
I mean, you laugh, but there's a version of the story where she is the only character that survives.
No, but that's what I'm saying. Like, as far as it goes, she's the only one that will see that dawn. That's what I'm saying. Like, I mean, I guess you could have some of the sort of ephemeral characters be there because you don't need their story. You don't need their confirmation to have them in the story. But of consequence, yeah, she's
My
the only
question is
one.
how dark are they willing to get, right? Like, Mon Mothma flees the Republic after denouncing Palpatine, which we know that happens in canon.
Mhm.
They're going to get dark enough to where we just see the Empire
Slaughter her.
go and assassinate the husband and the daughter. Like, I think all that stuff's on the table.
I think she'll try and secret them away before that. Maybe even tie it in with this is just again purely spitballing. Uh, the wedding contract thing. She may get feisty with that. Get her off Coruscant before that. Send her back to Chandrila to get married, and then she does the speech, and that's how they do it. Because I mean, I don't know. That might be a little dark, a little too dark for it, but I don't know.
Randy, you have any season two hopes before we go here?
I mean, for season 2, I think it would be kind of cool. I mean, I don't think it's going to happen, but you know, trying to have some of those animated moments from Rebels kind of cross into live action just to kind of confirm the canon for things that they did help with, especially with Mon Mothma. Beyond that, I'm looking forward to just seeing. I mean, we've seen, Cassian's growth to a point. I'm really curious to see how much more they drive that home leading up to the start of Rogue One, where we see he's just willing to do whatever it takes for the rebellion, essentially. But ultimately, it's just, I just have this feeling it's going to be this crazy wild ride because there's so much we don't know that happens between now and then. And it's going to be exciting just to see the depth of the characters, how they've all grown together, how they've grown apart, how they, because if memory serves me correctly, we saw Bix in the trailer fighting alongside him, so we know that they get reunited. It's just these little things that are just going to kind of, these little details that are just going to end up making the story that much stronger. So I'm really just hoping that we get to see really well written, really well acted out scenes where those little things really just kind of drive the story home versus just these big grandiose scenes where, don't get me wrong, there is room for that stuff. There is a point in time where stuff like that has to happen. But for me, Andor, the whole first season was always about moments. It was always about interactions. Developing those connections with different characters, something that Cassian seemed to do very well with just about everybody he came in contact with. So I want to see that continue in season 2 through the different arcs they show, and hopefully we get to see some really cool hero mode moments from whether it be Luthen or Andor himself, or even some of his other friends like Bix, like those people having those moments. That's what I'm really kind of hoping we get to see, just those big moments that are character defining.
So, this is awkward, but Sean had to go pee, so he left.
Wow. Hey, everybody, he had to go pee. Let's tell the world.
I mean, it wouldn't be the
No,
first
it's
time I've said
absolutely
it.
something the world needs to know.
Right?
The awkward moment where host just walks away to just take a piss in the middle of a show, just not even telling anyone else, just like, just go. Just ghost. I'm just glad Jade told us. Otherwise, we'd be sitting here in an awkward silence waiting for him, thinking his mic's muted or something.
Or it's like, damn, I guess he really hated what I had to say. Fuck. I'm an asshole.
Oh my. It's an awkward part of the show to do it at, too.
Near the end.
There's nothing like when you desperately have to pee. Yeah, we're doing pee talk. We've done it all here on the show. There's nothing
we
like
started that already when Jade told us you left to take a piss.
Yeah. I'm aware. I could hear her actually. There's nothing like when you desperately have to go pee. You just can't hold it any longer. Matt, if you're still watching, don't go there. PG-13, man. And you take a pee outside. There's something about taking a pee outside that just, if you're a dude, it's like I don't know, it's a way of life. Especially if it's a little cool.
Hey man, if you can just step out on a back porch and just be like, no one can see me, this is great. Hey,
that's exactly what just happened. That's it.
We've all been there.
John's just jealous because he do that.
He's like,
fuck.
First the hooker in Burger King. Now this, I'm done. I got through Andor and I'm out. He's trying to find words; they're just not coming.
I'd expect this story when you're at home. Like that would make sense. Just walk out a back door. Tell you're already out in the boonies and the forests, and bears and could be watching you piss. But you went country, boy. 10 year, you tell this story to 10 year ago, Sean, and he'd be like, "What do you mean pissing outside? What kind of animal are you?"
I don't know about that one. The pissing outside. We've all done it.
And then we have that one mutual friend who literally pees outside every time they come to my house, even when we lived in the city, and refused to pee inside. I'll message Johnny who it is, but
Okay.
I'm blanking, but you message him and then maybe it'll come.
I mean, sometimes you get drunk, you gotta pee,
he
the
still
bathroom's
uses
full,
the washroom if he's
and you just
inside,
walk
but yeah,
outside.
no, it's Jesse.
Oh, okay.
Jesse. Yeah. Jesse doesn't
I'm thinking to
count.
myself,
He's a different being all on his own.
I'm thinking like there were some parties back in the day over like Shrigs. Like, yeah, okay, pissed out in the bush.
I drove by there the other day.
There's a lot of bush out there, but I
Johnny, PG show, man. Jeez.
a lot of piss in the woods. It's a good. It's all right. That's PG.
P-gate.
Peas.
This is good.
I swear I did not pee on that bush.
Oh man. We just binged since, as I mentioned off the top, we've been without power where we live for about 11 days now. We toughed it out for about 3.5. The air just got too cold. You could see our breath in the house, and it was time to go stay with family about an hour and a half away, close to where Johnny lives. And so while we've been at different places, we've binged 1923 season 2. I don't know if anybody's caught up on that or not. Seen the first one. Just really good show, well written, dramatic finale. And the dude who plays Spencer, he is gonna be a star.
I will definitely have to get caught up so we can actually have a good discussion about it.
Better than the no discussion.
Very true.
I haven't watched any of the prequel series yet.
Oh,
I've still
really?
put up. I haven't even watched the finale yet.
Dummy.
I'm shocked that you didn't give 1883 a go yet.
Well, it's not that I haven't wanted to. I just haven't gotten around to it. It's one of those like I'll see it and I'll be like, I should probably start watching that, and I'll be like, what, I'm just gonna watch this instead.
It's good. I enjoy both of them. Honestly, I enjoy both of them probably more than Yellowstone at times. So it's they do a good job with them. I'll give them that. Anyways, though, ladies and gentlemen, it's 11:40. I have to be up at 5:30 this morning, so hopefully we're going back home to power tomorrow. We'll see. For Johnny and Randy, I'm Sean. Randy, got ahead of myself there. Where can everybody find you at, man? P-Gate.
I mean, I might as well start that hashtag on X while I'm at it. So on X at Giggity Giles. Also, NCAA finals in the book. So the Sports Brew Gang will probably get together and go over that and drink and do dumb shit like we always do. So if you like that kind of sort of thing, just Google Sports and Brew and you'll find us no problem.
If you try and start a P-Gate trend on Twitter, you'll end up in a place you do not want to be.
I'm sure.
No, but me, you can find me here, there, everywhere, bros before pros over on the Twitch. Have not been on it. I've been very busy playing a Minecraft server offline with another streamer. I've been playing in his server, so I've just been having fun, just having fun.
Sometimes you just got to do the work. And so I did. Peak 8's a thing. It's official. Anyways, unless
You
Johnny
gotta-
or Randy are absolutely against it, I believe the plan will be when Andor season 2 launches, since it launches on show night. We're not doing our 3-episode review till the next night, so we have time to actually watch them. But on that first night, I think we will watch episode 1 as part of our
I think we discussed doing that at some
as
point,
part of
watching
our
the first
episode. And then,
episode. Yeah,
assuming I
and then
have
doing the other
power
2 on
and
Wednesday.
we're all set up and good to go, I can just easily cut that out and post them as reactions to the actual episode. So, anyways, though, for Randy, for Johnny, I'm Sean. We'll see you next week on Fandom Nation. Hashtag